of 3 evenings where the city of Richmond has invited the resort casino proposers to give presentations to the community. My name is Maritza Peachin. I work for the city of Richmond. I am in charge of the Office of Equitable Development with the city of Richmond. If you're joining us with your computer, please make sure that your video is turned off. We do not want anyone to be displaying their video except for the people who are speaking. The meeting is being recorded and a video recording will be posted on the website. So that's every single person that I can see. Please turn off your video. That's Mark, that's Ken, that's Leslie, Ken Jones. All of you all, please turn off your videos unless you are speaking. Gouda Enterprises, thank you very much. I also see Ms. Trammell. Thank you very much for joining, Councilperson Trammell. I'm going to turn it over to Leonard Sledge. He is the director of Matthew Kilpatrick. Please turn off your camera. I do not want anyone sharing their video. And if you are sharing, all right. Leonard, I am going to share my screen and let you take it away. Leonard is the Director of Economic Development for the City of Richmond.
Thank you, Maritza. Again, good evening, everyone. As Maritza mentioned, my name is Leonard Sledge, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Economic Development for the City of Richmond. We're really thankful and pleased that everyone has dialed in, tuned in virtually for our presentation tonight from the One Casino and Resort team on their project proposal on South Commerce Drive in the City of Richmond. We're really excited to have them along with the other two proposers. Yesterday, we had the Cottage Companies with their live casino and hotel proposal, and tomorrow night we will have Bally's. We just want to have the opportunity for the proposers, those that are left in the process, to be able to share information directly with you, the citizens of Richmond, and to also to give you a chance to ask them questions that you have directly and for them to respond directly to you. We do clearly understand that there are a lot of feelings on both sides of the spectrum as it relates to the city of Richmond's possibility of having a resort casino project in the city. A lot of folks, again, expressing their thoughts as to the what, where, why, who, and how. But tonight, we're going to have a very civil discourse, verbally and in the chat room. The individuals who've been working on this project on behalf of the city of Richmond, they are an outstanding group of professionals, and I certainly wouldn't want anyone making disparaging comments about them, their abilities.
Thank you.
You please mute yourself. Would not want anyone to make any disparaging comments about them, their abilities, or the work that is in front of us. The same holds true just in terms of respectful and civil discourse as it relates to the proposers on any night that we're having these conversations. As we're monitoring the chat and as you're making comments when we get to Q&A, if we do feel like the conversation and the comments are not in the spirit of good civil discourse, we will immediately remove you from the meeting. And so with that, again, we really do thank you. In terms of the meeting tonight, excuse me, I'm going to turn it over to Maritza to just give an overview of the agenda, share some of the guidelines, and then would like to turn it over to Mr. Alfred Liggins, who's leading the One Casino and Resort project, to introduce his team and then to get into the presentation. Maritza.
Thank you, Leonard. Mr. Kirkpatrick, please turn off your screen. This is the second time I'll give you and Mr. Collins, you've just joined. Please turn off your camera. I don't want to see the only people who should be sharing their camera are the people who are speaking or the council person. I will wait a moment. Thank you. Mr. Kirkpatrick. Great, thank you, Leonard. So first we're going to do a little bit of an overview of how we got to where we are as it relates to the resort casino. There's some meeting guidelines. You can't, Leonard kind of already went over this. Please mute your video. During the Q&A portion, we're going to open up the chat. Please use the chat to ask questions and ask as many questions as you want. It's just easier for us to filter through if it's just questions and not a lot of comments. You're welcome to send your comments to the city's email list, which I'll share at the end here, or post it on our Conveyo board. We want to hear your comments, but for right now, we want to take questions for the proposer. Also, you can raise your hand. It's a function in MS Teams where you can raise your hand and you can ask a question aloud, and then I will unmute you at that moment in time. So a little bit of an overview on the timeline so that everyone kind of understands how we got to where we are. In March 2019, the Virginia General Assembly adopted legislation to permit 5 resort gaming operators to operate in 5 localities: Bristol, Danville, Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Richmond. They said that they wanted to wait a year until the legislation would take effect, and they had JLARC do a report on the impact of casinos, and that was delivered in November. That was part of the requirement of that legislation that was passed in March. In January and February of 2020, our city council, Richmond City Council, had 4 different meetings where they talked about the resort casino. You can find the recordings of these meetings on Legistar. If you Google Richmond Legistar, you can find the recordings and listen to yourself what the council members discussed back then. They came to a consensus at the February 3rd meeting of 2020 to say yes, that they would like to ask the General Assembly to give them the opportunity to explore a resort casino in Richmond, but they wanted to make sure there was local control over selecting the casino operator and site via a competitive process. So that launched this RFQ, RFP process that we're in the middle of right now. In April 2020, Governor Northam signed that law that gave Richmond the ability to select its operator and site via a competitive process. And in November 3rd, 2020, the other 4 localities voted to support a resort gaming casino facility in their jurisdictions. They voted 65 to 71% in those jurisdictions voted yes. In December 2020, the city launched a survey to help guide the city in writing the RFQ, RFP for the resort casino operator and site. And then in January 2021, the city EDA, Economic Development Authority, hired Convergent Strategies. They are a consulting group who has done work all over the world related to casinos. The city hired them as experts to help the evaluation panel in reviewing the evaluation, the proposals that came in. Convergent Strategies also developed a market analysis of what a casino operator, what a casino could bring to the city in terms of tax revenue, depending on different locations. And they conducted that market analysis before the city received any proposals. So, and that market analysis is available on the city's website for you to read in its entirety. The analysis also included things like where potential customers of a resort casino would be coming from. And they estimated that 22% or so of those people would be coming from Richmond, with the rest of the people coming from outside of Richmond. In February 2021, the city received 6 casino operator proposals from 6 casino operators. And right now we're in the process, an evaluation panel of 9 members, which includes 2 city council members and 7 city administration officials, including myself and Leonard Sledge, have been reviewing the proposals that were received. Last week, the evaluation panel announced that there were 3 that had been shortlisted. That is the live resort casino proposed for the Movie Land site, the urban one, proposed casino, the one resort casino proposed that we're talking about tonight on the Altria site, and then also Bally's Richmond proposed near Powhite in Chippenham. The city has been having public engagement opportunities since late February around the proposals, and in May, the evaluation panel will announce a preferred operator and site, and will bring that preferred operator and site to City Council. Then City Council in June can select that preferred operator that has been recommended by the evaluation panel and submit it to the Virginia Lottery for pre-certification. This is a step in the process. And then that also tees up the process of putting that operator and site that has been selected on the ballot in November 2nd, 2021. Every single voting Richmonder, if you voted, if on your ballot last November you had the option to vote for the mayor of Richmond, that means you are a voting resident of the city of Richmond. And if you are one of those people, you will be able to vote in November, and you will be asked the question, shall casino gaming be permitted at a casino gaming establishment in the city of Richmond, Virginia, and this is where it would say the location, as may be approved by the Virginia Lottery Board. So the city did not select the sites that we're talking about over the next few nights. Those were proposed by the proposers, and now the city evaluation panel is reviewing them, and this public process is part of that review process. And every single Richmond voter, not if you own property, not if you own a business, only if you are a resident who is registered to vote within the city of Richmond, can you vote on the referendum. All of this information and a lot more, like that market study, is available on the city's website, which is www.rva.gov/economic-development/resort-casino. The information, if you Google RVA Resort Casino, you'll probably also find it. You don't have to remember that long URL. But this website, including, is totally available. This is the place you should look for all of the information about the resort casino. You can provide your comments on our virtual boards. One of them has gotten very full. We're going to put a new one up that's empty. We're keeping the old comments, don't worry, but we're putting up another one so that we can have more space for people to put comments. And you can also email econdev@richmondgov.com to provide your comments. Leonard, do you have any further comments beyond what I said?
No further comments. Again, thank you, Maritza, for jumping us off the springboard tonight's meeting and presentation. Just looking forward to hear from the one casino and resort team.
Wonderful. All right, you can now share your screen. I think it was Jamie. Go ahead and share your screen. Charles, if you could please turn off your camera, that would be great.
So Alfred, again, thank you and your team for being present tonight. We appreciate you going on and starting with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonard. And Jamie, why don't we go sort of right to our leadership team. Again, thank you, Leonard. Really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to the selection committee for this opportunity to present the One Casino and Resort project proposed in South Richmond. Through lobbying the General Assembly, Urban One was the catalyst to create this robust and competitive proposal process by which the city could design a thoughtful RFP that would address the city's main economic development priorities and yield a compelling casino resort project that would be an economic engine for all Richmond citizens. As the catalyst, but also a proposer, I sought out partners that had required casino development and operational experience, a knowledge of and commitment to the city and state, but most importantly, a like-minded philosophy that aligned with Urban One's and the city's economic and societal goals as outlined in this RFP. After many months of discussion with most of the industry's major casino operators and live event producers, including our partner in Maryland, MGM, the Cordish companies, and Bally's, both proposers, we decided that Peninsula Pacific Entertainment, known as P2E, in partnership with Live Nation and Urban One, would create the most diverse and locally experienced leadership team to fulfill our vision for a casino resort project that would create a big tent to lift up all of Richmond. And you see our management and leadership team here. A few of us are going to present tonight. Myself, Brent Stevens, the founder and the chairperson, Aaron Gomes, the chief operating officer, and Karanja Augustine. Next slide, please. We have also partnered with more than 50 local and diverse Richmond residents that will own this project alongside Urban One, our founder and my mother, Kathy Hughes, and myself. These are 50 plus people you know, work with, worship with, or may socialize with, who will help guide our mission of creating unprecedented opportunity and the building of generational wealth in the city of Richmond. Next slide, please. We have a winning combination. The residents of Richmond, Urban One, Peninsula Pacific, and Live Nation have joined forces to bring you one casino resort. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about Urban One. We're a multimedia powerhouse. For more than 40 years, Urban One has been the leading voice speaking to Black America. Each week, Urban One reaches 82% of the African American community, delivering content that informs, entertains, and inspires its audience through radio, television, and digital platforms. No other proposer has our entertainment and event creation experience and an organic ability to drive tourism and casino visits locally, regionally, and nationally. Next slide. We have a local dominance. We've been serving the Richmond community for over 2 decades with our community-focused radio stations. We reach 545,000 weekly listeners, and that's 58% of the market through the radio stations that we own, but also our partnership with Summit Media. We reach all genres of music fans and demographics: hip hop, urban AC, inspirational, classic hip hop, country, rock, adult contemporary, oldies, and sports. All of these genres and demographics will be invited to one. The city's consultant has identified the Richmond Casino's addressable market as a radius of a 2.5-hour drive along the East Coast. Urban One has a regional dominance as well, with 4.5 million weekly listeners, with a radio presence that stretches from Atlanta all the way up to Philadelphia. We're in Atlanta, Raleigh, Charlotte, Richmond, Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia. We will consistently and relentlessly drive visitors to one casino resort and the many tourism attractions of the River City. Urban One also has a national dominance. Our 60 radio stations from Texas to the whole East Coast have 25 million weekly listeners. We have the largest syndicated radio business for African Americans, reaching 32 million listeners nationwide. Our i1 digital platform has 24 million monthly unique visitors across 80 local and national websites. And our cable TV networks, TV One and Clio TV, collectively reach 80 million U.S. households. Our national media brands will make Richmond's one casino and resort a household name and a national destination. Our mission statement: we engage community, we promote community, and we advance community. We have spent 40 years uplifting and creating opportunity in marginalized and minority communities. This is what one will bring to South Richmond. Now I'd like to hand off to our partner, Chairman of P2E, Mr. Brent Stevens.
Okay, thank you very much, Alfred, and thank you all for this opportunity to participate in the presentation today. Peninsula Pacific Entertainment has a 20-year record of success in the casino and hospitality industry, having built from the ground up over 1 million square feet of casino hospitality space, totaling $1.4 billion of assembled capital, and having 11 award-winning greenfield construction projects during our history. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we're award-winning builders and operators of gaming properties, having been the 3-time winner of USA Today's 10 Best Casinos in the Country Award, the AAA 4-Diamond Award for multiple properties we've built during our 20-year history, and numerous other awards. Next slide, please. We're not the only ones just saying this about ourselves. We're very proud of our history, and we have many, many external market watchers that have validated our high quality developments with awards and accolades during our 20-year history. Peninsula Pacific has designed, built, and launched highly successful casino resort destination projects from the ground up in cities across the country. And just to share a few examples with you, the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel in Sioux City, Iowa. Next, please. The Del Lago Resort and Casino in upstate New York. The Diamond Joe Casino in Worth County, Iowa. And the Kansas Star Casino in Wichita, Kansas. As many of you are aware, P2E has also helped to save the thoroughbred horse racing industry right here in Virginia by bringing back Colonial Downs. We have partnered with local contractors and vendors in 5 Virginia communities and created great job opportunities and successful gaming operations in 5 Virginia localities. We are proud of our history in the Commonwealth, and we've recently moved our corporate headquarters to the city of Richmond as part of our commitment to the community. And something near and dear to our hearts and very, very similar to that which Alfred spent some time on, and that is our deep commitment to giving back to the communities in which we operate. During our history, we have provided over $90 million of capital back into our communities through volunteer capital raises and contributions by our organization, and have volunteered over 60,000 hours from our own team members into the communities in which we operate. In Virginia, our Chief Operating Officer, Aaron Gomes, has been responsible for much of our success. And I'd like to now turn the presentation over to Aaron. Aaron?
Yep. Thank you, Brent. When we first met Alfred, we quickly realized that our corporate values very much align with those of Urban One. Over the course of the last 2+ years since we moved our headquarters to downtown Richmond, we've gotten to know Richmond-based organizations as well as others across Virginia where the greatest needs exist and where we can do the most good. In our approximately 2 years of operations in Virginia, we have given back over $1.3 million to not-for-profits in the communities we operate in, and we give back in many other ways. For example, in Richmond, we have committed to giving $100,000 per year minimum to Miles Jones Elementary School, and you can see a picture of us there with Principal Shaw on the top right. And another example are the 30,000 meals we cooked and donated in the early months of the crisis that we served to first responders and frontline workers. Next slide, please. P2E has extensive experience at all of our casino properties with putting on A-list concerts and attracting the biggest and best name in all genres of music. We want to do the same for Richmond by partnering on the one project with Live Nation, and we are extremely excited about our partnership with them. They are the world's largest producer of live entertainment. They are very excited about utilizing our state-of-the-art 3,000-person theater to route their tours through our venue. They believe we are perfectly positioned to grab tours heading up and down the East Coast between Charlotte and the Baltimore-Philadelphia market, and there is currently not a home for in Virginia. Next slide, please. We plan on hosting over 200 shows annually, and in order to book that amount of entertainment, it is a necessity to partner with a powerhouse. So we pick the best in the world. Live Nation produces 40,000 shows annually, selling 500+ million tickets. So tapping into their network of entertainers and their vast marketing network via their ownership of Ticketmaster will be a huge advantage for us. Our property in Sioux City, Iowa is a great example of what our entertainment strategy has proven to do and been extremely effective in bringing visitors to the property. Since opening in 2016, that property has averaged more than 150 shows annually. In total, the property has hosted 900 plus shows, issued more than 410,000 tickets to those shows to guests hailing from all 50 states and more than a dozen countries. And remember, this is a small city in western Iowa, so imagine what we could do in Richmond. Now, Alfred, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Aaron. Let's review the project and go through it piece by piece. First of all, we have the absolutely ideal location. 55 acres of green space, no need for infrastructure improvements. We have the least traffic impact versus other proposed sites. We're in an industrial location, which is extraordinarily helpful, and no rezoning will be required. We have easy access to I-95 and the airport. Exit 69, Bells Road off of 95 will guide you directly into our site's entryway. And something that I did not actually expect until we found out after we announced the project, there is a historical significance for this site because of the Philip Morris connection that so many Richmond residents have. I've gotten unsolicited emails from all over the country from people who've lived in Richmond before, from Richmond, and also people from Richmond talking about the project at this site and what it means to them and their families. Next slide. We are proposing a $500+ million gaming and entertainment destination with 90,000 square feet of gaming space, 100 table games, including blackjack, craps, roulette, poker, and more, 1,800 slot machines, and a sports book. There will be a luxury 4-star AAA 4-diamond hotel with 150 rooms to start. We have also designed this property with an additional 350-room hotel pad for future expansion. These are premium rooms with panoramic views of Richmond's striking open green space and stunning city views. We also have 20,000 square feet of event space offering community meeting access and a place for weddings, graduations, and family reunions. Our Rise Theater will be a true destination with 200 live shows a year of all genres and a 3,000-seat capacity. We will have unmatched entertainment in partnership with Live Nation, the global leader in live entertainment. And if you know anything about the music business and the entertainment business, with our vast radio platform and Live Nation's list of music venues and contracts with artists, we will be able to persuade and bring the very best talent on a consistent basis to Richmond, Virginia. And as operating radio stations in this market for 20 years, I know how desperately the flow of entertainment needs to be up-leveled in the city. We will have the best of Richmond food. The culinary additions at One will be unmatched and a true celebration of Richmond's local homegrown eateries. The addition of 12 unique restaurants and bars will bring all new concepts from some of Richmond's most beloved chefs and restaurateurs. One's local offerings will also include several of Richmond's flourishing craft breweries, wineries, and distilleries, creating a true celebration of local fare, plus a 1-acre festival lawn with a dedicated space for food trucks. These local restaurant commitments are in place and took a year of hard work to develop. Our local restaurant partners at One include Velma Johnson at Mama J's, Mike Ledesma at Perch, Shane Roberts Thomas of Southern Kitchen, Chris Sway of the Eats Restaurant Group, Katrina and Johnny Giavos of Stella's, and the Richmond Restaurant Group. We will also create 55 acres of parks and green space with community gardens, miles of bike trails, 1-acre festival lawn, a playground for all ages and abilities, a dog park for large breed and small breed dogs, fitness trails, walk-through arboretum featuring Richmond's native plant and tree species, acres of untouched preserved wetlands. All of this will be accessible to the public and sorely needed on Southside. Truly unique to One Casino Resort will be our on-site radio and television production studios broadcasting unique and original content. We'll build a 15,000 square foot soundstage for film and TV production that will be the only one in the city of Richmond, and others can use it as well. With that will come a commitment of $50 million in original programming production from Urban One's broadcast, radio, and digital companies, creating more jobs and opportunities in the entertainment industry for Richmond citizens. We're also providing $25 million in free advertising to the city of Richmond to promote tourism, city services, or any other priorities the city deems appropriate. Now I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Karanja Augustine, who is General Counsel for P2E.
Thank you, Alfred. The one team really feels that we're uniquely positioned to respond to the needs of the Richmond community because all the component parts of our team are members of the Richmond community. For the better part of a year, we went and we did an assessment of the needs, and we really took an approach that examined the unique needs of the community, sought partnerships with proven organizations with track records for success, and then we allocated dollars to those areas of critical need, receiving feedback from those experts and feedback from members of our team that live in Richmond. And to that end, we think we came up with a proposal that's bold and beneficial to all Richmonders. And we've done that in organizing it in 4 broad categories. Those categories are education, workforce development, affordable housing, and community sponsorships. Next slide, please. And again, in terms of education, we have committed to $2.5 million to Richmond Public Schools, $1 million to communities and schools, and then $5.5 million to support Richmond students globally. That would be for out-of-school programs, scholarships, and other supportive measures to help students succeed in Richmond. Next slide, please. In terms of workforce development, we know this is really a critical area. It's not always just good enough to have jobs, but you want to have supportive services for people to thrive and build in those communities. And to that end, we've partnered with Virginia Union University, $2.5 million to help in that endeavor. Reynolds Community College, $1.5 million, and that'll be primarily focused on hospitality and culinary. We also have stood up a reentry program utilizing, again, experts in the space, Help Me Help You and Project Give Back. And the idea there is to try and create opportunities for people who may be past offenders and can really benefit from the economic opportunity that the one project will present, and allow them to re-enter the workforce. And then the Office of Community Wealth Building with the City of Richmond, $4 million. Next slide, please. Affordable housing, for those of us that live in Richmond, we understand that this is it's an ongoing issue, and we want to do our part to try and alleviate that. And we've committed to $10 million for affordable housing, and are proud of the partnerships that we have stood up in that regard. Southside Community Development and Housing Corporation, the Better Housing Coalition, and Richmond Metropolitan Habitat for Humanity. Next slide, please. In terms of community partnerships, we wanted to engage organizations that are in the community doing great work, and those that are celebrating Richmond's cultural heritage and history, and also that have in tune with the business community. And to that end, we'll engage Metropolitan Business League, the Black History Museum and Cultural Center of Virginia, Alegba, Folklore Society, the Richmond Black Restaurant Experience, Second Street Festival, the Richmond Folk Festival, and the Latin Jazz Festival.
Thank you, Karanja, for that. Now let's go and look at local jobs and opportunities. We're not offering just jobs, we're offering careers. 1,500 new jobs, general generational wealth building opportunities with an average annual salary and benefits of $55,000. We're going to have a $15 an hour minimum starting wage, a comprehensive benefits package, management opportunities, and job trainings. And unique to One, we have an employee profit sharing plan where every team member will be an owner and take home an extra $3,000 to $5,000 annually at holiday time. This is extraordinarily unique in the casino industry. Next slide, please. We will also provide opportunities for minorities, 50% minority participation in jobs, 50% local hiring. We will be bringing badly needed jobs to Southside and the 8th District. 40% minority participation for construction and ongoing contracting. I mentioned our 50+ minority investors before. We have a well-developed diversity workforce and supplier program designed and implemented by a local minority-owned company, JMI, and we will be the only Black-owned casino in the country. This is a Richmond-based project team. Urban One, operating radio stations for over 2 decades in Richmond. Peninsula Pacific, headquartered in downtown Richmond as we speak. Lead architect is Baskerville. Our general contractors, Horrigan Construction and Team Henry Enterprises. Our engineering company, Timmons Engineering. Our bank, Atlantic Union. And diversity and workforce development is JMI. Let's talk about the economic impact the One project will have on the city. In addition to the millions of dollars in tax revenue, One will contribute an additional 2% of net gaming revenues to the city of Richmond. This is approximately $60 million in additional revenues for the city to do with as they wish to support critical priorities. We have a development plan that will have us be the quickest to open, the first to create jobs, the first to generate tax revenues, and the first to support charitable causes. Our first phase will be operational by December of 2022. Community benefits and additional city revenues add up to a very big number. There's $343 million of direct, indirect, and induced tax revenue. I spoke about our $60 million of voluntary additional revenue share. I mentioned our $25 million of free advertising for the city's use. And Karanja mentioned our $30 million in community support and charitable giving. These add up to $458 million over just the first 10 years that the state license will initially be issued for. So why choose One? First of all, we have the very best site. We also have the very best team. It's the best project and the best opportunity for all of Richmond. So One has momentum, and the momentum is building. Already, nearly 2,000 local residents have signed up online to say they support One, and they have sent over 1,400 emails to date backing One. To learn more about our project and to support One, please visit onecasinoresort.com. And you can also view our video presentations on that site about the architecture and property design, as well as video on Urban One's entertainment history, assets, and capabilities. I thank you for this opportunity to present One. And Leonard, we're looking forward to answering all the questions that will come our way.
Alfred, to you and your team, thank you all very much for that comprehensive presentation. For the benefit of all who are in the chat, if you would not mind sharing that web address. I'm sorry, for the benefit of all who are on the call tonight, if you would not mind sharing that web address in the chat.
Yes, that's onecasinoresort.com. And Jamie, I don't know how to use the chat, so maybe if you could put the URL in the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. I have opened the chat so you can now add your questions. I'm asking that everyone please turn off their video. So that's Muriel, Nikisha, Jasmine, Jack, Matthew, Kirkpatrick, Betsy Carr. Please turn off your video. We can see your video. I don't want you going to the bathroom by accident or doing something embarrassing. Thank you. Um, so Matthew Kirkpatrick, again, please turn off your video. Okay, I am going to start with a question from someone who's raised their hand. You can raise your hand as a function and then I unmute you. Please keep your questions brief so that we can allow lots of people to ask questions. Jasmine Brooks, I have unmuted you. Unmute yourself on the other end, please.
Yes, my question is, give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was in a loud place. I'm sorry. I'm gonna step outside very fast.
Go ahead.
All right. And my question was, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead. Ask your
All
question.
right. All right. 1 second. I'm coming.
While you're gathering yourself and while we're waiting for your question, if we can just go to one from the chat real quick, Maritza. And that first question from the chat is, I understand Urban One has a minority stake in the MGM National Harbor, which used union labor to build and currently uses union labor to operate the casino. Person writes, I think that's great. Will you do the same in the development and operation of your casino here in Richmond?
I'm going to kick the union conversation, of which we have had several, to the P2E team. They're going to be the operating entity, and they've got lots of union experience that they'll explain.
Yep. So from operation perspective, look, we are very committed to being the best employer, and this starts with our minimum wage of $15 an hour, some of the best in market benefits, and of course our employee profit share. Ultimately, it's a decision of our employees that they need to make, and we're not opposed to it if that's the direction that they decide to take. We operate both union and non-union casinos and have a great relationship. To name one, the Hotels Trade Council in New York, which we operate under, and currently about a third of our employees are unionized. For the construction side, I'll hand it off to our Chief Development Officer, Stefan.
Thank you, Aaron. As it relates to union labor, for construction, our contractors, Horgan Construction, and they regularly use union and non-union labor, and they strive to get the best value. And with the labor available, they have great relationships with many of the unions. They have mason unions, electrical, mechanical, and electric, and they are signatory with the carpenters union. So there will be opportunities.
Okay. Thank you. Jasmine, I am going to allow you to unmute again to ask your question. Okay. Brent, I can see your video. Please turn off your video. Okay. Jason Haas, I'm unmuting you. Please ask your question. Jason? Oh, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Unmute on your end. Russell, please turn off your video if you're not talking.
Can you not hear me?
Jason,
Hello?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the overview and speaking so much about the community. If you could, please highlight 3 areas of why you are a better location than the other 2 proposals.
I spent a lot of time personally, even before I partnered up with P2E, and they spent even more time than I did looking at locations. First and foremost, I would say the accessibility, to 95, and the fact you come right off of the exit and you're right there at the site is critical. In order to have a successful casino resort, people need to be able to get to it. If it's difficult to get to it, you cause traffic problems in the neighborhood. You discourage people from actually patronizing you, etc. The other thing that I did learn, while I was down here, and also being in the market for many years, is that the neighborhood issue is a very big issue in Richmond, Virginia. It was an issue at National Harbor when MGM built there, and so the idea that it was already in an industrial area, zoned industrial, and that there's wetlands and a railroad track, a large railroad track in between our site and the nearest house was very significant as well. And then I would say lastly is just the sheer size of the project. It's 100 acres. It's of the parcel. It's larger than the other parcels. One of the things that came up in the city's initial questionnaire before they did the RFP, green space and things of that nature came up as something that was important. And not only does this large parcel give us the ability to expand, as opportunities arise and demand increases, it allows us, to create, this additional green space, to create a project in a park that we're going to maintain, we're going to pay for, and that the neighborhood can use. And my understanding is, there's there are not a lot of well-maintained outdoor facilities, in the area. So I think, those, are the three things why I thought that this this site was, really perfect. And then again, I think I mentioned in my presentation, and lastly, and I didn't know this until we announced it, but once we announced it, the city of Richmond and the residents have a historical commitment to that Philip Morris plant, and generations of people have worked there, and they've got memories and experiences, and the idea that an economic development project would come back to that location with all of this new opportunity and minority participation and people and tourism is exciting to people.
Thank you. Russell and Friday 2ZO, please turn off your videos so that we do not see you. Just, you can be listening, but please turn off your videos. Now we see your table, but just so you know. Okay, wonderful, thank you. Vicky, I am going to unmute you and you can ask your question aloud. You just have to unmute on your end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So I think this presentation has been wonderful. I've enjoyed watching this. I came back from being out of town just so I could attend, and I think that it's wonderful about the restaurants and about the entertainment and everything, but I'm going to come from this from the perspective of a gambler. Okay. I frequent Las Vegas and MGM Grand. My question to you is, while you talked about the number of slot machines and stuff that you're going to have, I have never seen any mention of any of the casinos in contention of having video keno, also known as video poker machines, the game masters. Do you happen to know if this is on the plan for what you will be offering within the casino?
Aaron, you want to?
Yes, absolutely. As long as Keno is regulated by the Virginia Lottery and it's authorized, we will have it. We have it at every other casino we operate, so it's certainly in the plan.
Thank you. Friday, I can still see your screen. I don't know what your actual name is, but that's how you logged in. Please stop your video so I don't have to take you out of the meeting. I don't want to have any things. Okay. Someone asked, is there a residential community? Is there residential communities that are nearby this proposed site? Please discuss in more detail. So it's two questions. That's one, and then the other one. Please discuss in more detail the trails, wetlands, and park area of the proposal.
Yeah. So look, this is it's a city, right? It's the city of Richmond. We're all close together, and so unlike in Kansas, there's nothing that's 10 miles away from any sort of residential. I would say that of all the sites that have been proposed, and I've gone down and I've looked, is that we've got the largest buffers between us and any respective home. Again, off the back of our property, there is 50 acres of wetlands, a park, and when I say wetlands, there's lakes back there, and on the other side of those lakes are railroad tracks that are active, and then you get to I think your first houses, and it's not a very large neighborhood. It's sparsely populated back there. I've even inquired, what's the neighborhood called, and I haven't I've heard south of Bells Road, and so that's off the back end of the park. The front, of the site. The front end is Commerce Road, and then you've got some more industrial, and then you got the highway, and then north you got more industry, and warehouses, and south you got the Port of Richmond and the Amazon and Brother distribution systems, distribution warehouse. So nothing's perfect, so I would say it's away from most neighborhoods, but if it's a mile, 2 miles to the nearest house, I don't think there are going to be any sound issues, any lighting issues. I don't think there'll be any traffic issues because most people will not access this facility, through those neighborhoods. They'll come off of 95 and Commerce Road, and that's one of the very important descriptions as to why we think it's an extraordinarily attractive site for this project.
Maritza, I'd just like to encourage folks who are participating tonight to please feel free to use the chat feature also to ask your questions, and we will get to them as quickly and as best we can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leonard, for that reminder. We usually go back and forth between the chat and the hands raised, so if you want to write it in, please do. I think if you're joining via the MS Teams web browser, you can't see the chat, but if you're joining another way, you can. JRBA, I am unmuting you. Go ahead and ask your question. You have to unmute yourself first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay, so my question is, what is your plan to make sure Richmonders get jobs on all phases of the casino, including the construction phase?
We have a comprehensive diversity and inclusion plan. We're making hard commitments to the city in our development agreement. I've outlined them in the presentation. One of the reasons I love proposing it in the South Side is because we're going to be in the South Side in the 8th district, and we're going to be hiring as many people as we can, and quite frankly, we're not just doing this because this is a casino RFP. When I first started proposing minority inclusion, this whole process, I represented, to folks, this is in the DNA of our company. If you know anything about Urban One, we've always positioned ourselves as a company that doesn't just entertain, but we educate and inform and advocate for the African American community. So economic opportunity is a big thing for us. We walk this talk, every day, and we've done it for 40 years. It's the DNA of the company. And that's, what I told those 50 local investors when, I invited them to come along aside us. So if we don't fulfill those obligations, not noting the fact that the city, if we're lucky enough to be chosen, is going to make us contractually agree to them. But if we don't fulfill those obligations, I just have scrambled and ruined the DNA of everything that our company is built on.
Yeah, I would like to add something briefly about that, which is just to answer the gentleman's question. I mean, when you talk about making sure that jobs go to people in a certain area, you're talking about recruitment in those neighborhoods. We have found in our experience that when you have job fairs in particular areas, you draw more people from that area. You're talking about targeting, and we have a comprehensive plan along with JMI, the firm that is Richmond based and has a history of doing these projects in Richmond, and they are very confident that we're going to meet or exceed our 50% local goal. And we've seen in terms of P2E, we've already seen success in terms of our Richmond project, our Rosie's project rather in Richmond, where we have 65% of our residents are from Richmond, and then 40% of our, 65% of our team members rather are from Richmond, and 40% of those team members actually live in the South Side. So we are very confident that we're going to be drawing from the South Side and Richmond at large for our team members.
Okay. Again, please feel free to use the chat. It's a nice way to get through some questions. Sally J, I am allowing you to unmute. Sally J. Okay, I will go to Brady. I am allowing you to unmute. Brady? Okay. Brady, I'll come back if you first. Now I'm going to go to Stephen Haley. Hallie.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my question. This goes back to the earlier question about labor. My question is, if the workers want to organize a union at the one casino, will you commit to a neutrality agreement?
Aaron?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the same thing I said before. We're committed to letting our employees make that decision. We're not opposed to negotiating with the union at any point if that's what the employees decide. And as I mentioned prior as well, we operate in a union environment in New York, and about a third of our total workforce operate under that union agreement. So again, strong relationships with the union and not opposed to unions at all.
But it's I just got a note. Some folks are having a problem figuring out where the chat function is. So for everyone who is participating by computer, your desktop, if you look in the upper portion of the screen, you'll see a little text box or a quote bubble. It's on the left-hand side of the raised hand. If you click that, you will see the chat box come up on your screen. You should be able to type in your question or comment there. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat, which is, what kind of business or industries tend to accompany the casino post-development in your experience? I think they're talking about beyond the actual casino development.
Yeah, Aaron, you're there. I would just start with, I would say it also depends on where it is and what's around it, right? Certainly if you're, a resort that's, in a rural area, it's different than, a resort in the middle of the city and a resort that might be, in an industrial area. But Aaron, do you want to, give some perspective from your experience?
No, I think that's right. Generally, what we see is hotels popping up around projects. We've seen this multiple times. Actually, just about every one of our developments, new hotels open. Restaurants for overflow business from the properties and as people drive to and from the property. Gas stations, give you an example, just at our Colonial Downs property, that gas station's numbers are through the roof. So gas stations do well, you see more of them come up. General retail, but as Alfred mentioned, it depends on the location.
I'd like to add that one of our partners is a hotel operator in the city and owns one of the hotels that is adjacent to our property. And there are 3 hotels that are down there. And I had a conversation, and they fully expect that we will be a catalyst for increased business for those 3 hotels that are right there, off of the Bells Road exit. In addition to the new rooms that we're going to bring to the table.
Thank you. Brady, I am going to unmute you again, and maybe this time you'll be able to speak. You have to unmute on your end. Okay. Oh, there you are. Great.
Yes, yes. A few of mine were answered pretty thoroughly, so I might just listen and double back if something pops in my head.
Thank you. Alice, you are next.
Hear me?
Yes.
What is the current crime rate in the proposed Urban One neighborhood? Is the neighborhood safe?
You mean for the neighborhood that is around the proposed casino site that we're discussing?
Yes.
That's a good question. I haven't looked at current crime reports. I don't know if anybody on our team has. It's a largely mostly industrial area, as I described earlier. And so you have the Philip Morris factory there. You've got Port of Richmond. You've got the distribution centers, and you've got the hotels. And so, not sure whether or not anybody on the team has got any sort of police reports, of historical crime rates. But yeah, I'm not instantly, familiar with what those current statistics are.
Is there anyone from the P2E team that would like to speak to crime statistics or anything along those lines at, near, or around the Rosie's facility on Midlow?
No, I mean, I guess I could address crime in general. Again, we haven't looked at the crime rate specifically for that location, but anytime we look at a new facility, and this is worth a little time spending on, crime's always a major concern of the community, and it's really the way the operator addresses it that's the most important part. The approach is everything. Crime is not necessarily a myth, but it's how the operator handles it. For example, if you go to our P2E website, there's a video on how we handle the issue, and we have interviews with heads of law enforcement from everywhere we operate discussing topics like how we work with local authorities on coordination to ensure that we are in constant communication and do not put any strain on the resources. Then we have trained security guards all over the property, inside and outside, in cars and on bikes. Approximately 150 of our employees will either be full-time surveillance or security. So if you just some resources out there. We have thousands of surveillance cameras that cover almost all of the public spaces inside and outside the property, and the results are positive in the communities we operate in. We are the only company that has a proven track record in Virginia.
Aaron, you faded out.
Oh, can you hear
Aaron,
me?
you may want to get just a little closer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So I was saying I would encourage anybody to call the chief of police or sheriffs from where we operate, both here in Virginia and elsewhere, and ask what their experience with us has been like. They will tell you, I'm very confident, that we have not increased crime, and each of the communities we operate in are better today than they were prior to our arrival. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's essential for our business. How many people would want to come to a property if they read in the newspaper about crime at a casino? Then on top of this, I think it's important to note that when you put $70 million in payroll into a community, it can have a very positive impact on crime, and we have seen it time and time again.
Thank you, Aaron. Marita, before you go on to the next question, I'd just like to also add, we're on from the standpoint of the evaluation and the city, we're very mindful of the issues and concerns that citizens have about the social and economic impacts of having casino facility or the possibility of having a resort casino facility in the city of Richmond. And we are not skirting those issues at all. We are very mindful, again, and through our community engagement, we encourage you to ask questions about those things so that you can hear answers and responses for yourselves directly. But also, we are proactively seeking feedback from citizens in Richmond as to ideas, thoughts, and ways that we can also mitigate those risks as well. And so, again, whether it be gambling addiction, whether it be crime, whether it be any and everything under the sun that concerns individuals in terms of the social and economic impacts.
Okay, Leroy, I am unmuting you to ask a question.
So I was wondering whether or not the mayor has any sort of stake, whether it's indirect or direct, or interest in the one casino.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
I was wondering whether or not the mayor has any sort of indirect or direct interest in the one casino or any stake.
No, 100% not. Yeah, never even. Yeah, first of all, it's not really any kind of appropriate notion that you would engage an elected official anywhere on any level like that, whether it's a mayor or a city council person. But just not even close to any kind of conversation like that. Maritza, I was going to ask, could you unmute Brent Stevens? He seems not to be able to.
I have been trying to find him, and
Does this work?
Yeah, it's working.
I think that we may have decoded it. Thank you. I'm back.
I thought I added you. I'm happy that I did find
Yeah,
him.
you did. You just did about 5 minutes ago. Thank you, Maritza.
Matthew Kirkpatrick, again, don't share your screen. I can see like TV monitors or something. It's like you work at a news station, perhaps.
I'm getting the evening news during all of this.
But I don't want to see it, Matthew Kirkpatrick. Alan Davis, I'm allowing you to unmute. You can ask your question aloud. You just have to unmute on your end. Okay, I'm going to lower. We can come back to you. Charles Willis, go ahead and ask your question. You just have to unmute your own speaker.
Yes, thank you so much. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Alfred, and the rest of you all for the presentation. I do want to say that the current Jeff Davis Neighborhood Civic Association, which I serve as president, is the neighborhood that's pretty close to this site. That's the current name because we'll be voting this weekend to change that name. Couple of things I want to ask is, would you share if there are any incentives or development plans that slated for the immediate communities, such as ours and others? The other is, will local nonprofits have an opportunity for vending opportunities? And I'm a little concerned. I know you mentioned Live Nation, but there are a number of local promoters that have expressed concerns about not having an opportunity. So we'd like to know if that would be an opportunity, as well as you mentioned about out-of-school programs. And there are other school programs, especially those that have been working along with academies and all that are private schools, that wanted to know if you would consider that. I know we talked about affordable housing. There's a new name that I learned today, obtainable housing. And if we could look at that, because affordable housing to some may not be affordable to others. The other is, would the proposal consider, since you guys are doing record breaking, that you would consider looking at $17 an hour instead of $15 an hour? And last but not least, would you consider additional locations to work adjacent additional locations that around that development that would help with that community, such as we in that community have been strongly trying to find some opportunity to use the Wamston and Jeff Davis site, Richmond Highway site, once known as the Farm Fresh site. So that's something we wanted to look at.
So Mr. Davis, that I'm sorry, Mr. Willis. Lots of questions there. So in the interest of allowing as many people as possible to ask questions, can you just grab two of those to ask of the team?
Yeah, I sure would, Mr. Leonard. Just to let you know, I've been searching since we started 56 minutes ago how to put a question in the chat, and mine's is not showing up at all.
Yeah, that's a common problem that people are having tonight. I have no idea why. I've been Googling it on my end. Last night it didn't work. I can tell you this: you can email questions. You can email us. You can also just ask your questions aloud, and we'll get to them. And we're here until 8:30.
Let me go to the two. Let me go to the two questions, or better still, the team can just select two of them.
Yeah, I was going to short circuit a little bit. The one I didn't quite understand is what the vending opportunity for nonprofits was, but let's put that aside. A lot of what you just described was, economic support for things that are deemed necessary in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And look, that's a larger discussion that needs to be had, and that needs to be had between, the proposer, us, the elected officials, in the district, the civic organizations, and the city, right? So we're providing funds, off of the project that aren't earmarked, for anything specific that are going to go to the city, and we should be knowledgeable as to what the priorities are, for the neighborhood in the district, and see if we can be helpful in making that part of our negotiation with the city. I'm assuming that the city's going to come back and say, if they choose to engage with us, that X, Y, and Z is important, and we should be knowledgeable enough, to say, the folks that we've talked to, the elected officials, the council person, say that ABC is important. So how do we, be a catalyst, and the revenues that come from our project be a catalyst to be additive and to solve some of those problems. So that's a larger discussion, but the city's got to ultimately want to engage with us as a project to see if that is a resource that we can negotiate and make part of it. Secondarily, I talked a lot about the entertainment aspect in Live Nation, and you brought up local promoters. The answer is absolutely yes. We will be able to engage with local promoters. Even at MGM National Harbor, there are local promoters that come in out of there, and they've got a similar relationship with AEG or Live Nation. I don't remember which one it was, but there's plenty of nights that need to be filled, and we want as much entertainment and activity in our facility as possible. And so, we will absolutely engage with local business people and promoters. I don't really understand where the nonprofits come in as vendors, because by definition, nonprofits aren't usually selling things and making money. But maybe you can explain I'm sure we'll meet at some point in time. We can have a further, deeper conversation.
Thank you. I'm taking a question from the chat. I think some people restarted Teams and then they made it work. You have to have the MS Teams app. You can't use your web browser to ask questions in the chat. Question speaks to, it's a little long, so looking at your company, it does not appear that Urban One has any real experience developing a resort casino, let alone operating one. This is why you partnered with P2E. Has this specific group ever developed a casino, built one, or operated one? how can you have realistic projections about the cost to build, jobs created, operating costs, and ultimately how much money this will generate for my city if this group has never worked together, etc.
Yeah, well, look, Urban One does not, have experience directly operating casino. Obviously, we're partners with MGM, but that is precisely why we did decide to pick an operating partner and pick P2E. And P2E has an enormous, amount of operating experience over, years and years and years, and also development experience. They've developed, many casino greenfield opportunities. Brent Stevens, the chairman, took the folks through their track record in the earlier part of the presentation. Based on that question, it sounds like the questioner must have missed that part of it. But the experience is extensive. They currently own, many casinos. They operate the Colonial Downs Racetrack and the Rosie's Gaming Emporiums. And we chose them because of their experience in operating and also development from greenfield, from scratch to fruition. And quite frankly, I think that they have actually built more casinos than anybody in the proposal group.
That's right. That's right. And listen, I would add that this is a confluence of a couple of different relationships and philosophical needs. What I mean by that is we've had the privilege of being a part of the Commonwealth through Colonial Downs and those activities for a number of years, as you're all probably aware. And we have been in the resort hospitality development business for over 2 decades. The notion of being an ongoing participant in what became this process was really about meeting up with someone whose interests and philosophies, corporate, social, economic, etc., aligned, and that was Alfred. We recognize that we're in an interesting moment in the world today, and we want to be a part of that solution. And to bring the tool chest to one was really an opportunity for us to team up and do something that was, maybe not being another applicant on a standalone basis, but really teaming up with someone who had the desire to be a part of this industry and teaming up with our intellectual property, our experience over these last 20 years, providing a little bit of capital to help the local citizens also leverage that to become actual owners, to create generational wealth with Alfred at the helm, leading this enterprise forward, and we'll have the opportunity to help do that.
Brent, actually, I'd like to pull up a question from the chat that's aligned to the relationship with P2E.
Sure.
And the writer in the chat writes, isn't there a major conflict of interest we're not talking about here? P2E just invested all of this money in Rosie's across Virginia, and there's already a Rosie's in Richmond. So are you going to shut down all the Rosie's, or are you going to compete against yourself and presumably meaning
Sure.
with the one project? It seems
Sure.
like that doesn't make sense. So could you speak to that, please?
Before you answer, Rob Sneed, could you turn off your camera so we don't see you, please? Thank you.
And Brent, your video's not on, so I'm just
I see Brent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It depends on your setting. You can't always see everyone.
Got it.
Okay. So the question is there really a conflict of interest here, both from a capital perspective and an operating perspective? I think that's really what the question is, Leonard. So let's take it in its parts. First of all, we have a separate, self-contained part of our organization that will run for the benefit of the ownership headed by Alfred of One. That is separate and apart from the Colonial Downs and Rosie's investment. But I will tell you that on the investment part, we're investing alongside Alfred, not with any common equity, but with the preferred stock instrument that I think you as the evaluation board know has no voting rights, is really just a show of support into this invested enterprise so that the local investors have an opportunity to use that to, as I said, create generational wealth. This actually will not be a conflict. If anything, it'll be a synergy for the community.
And what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alfred.
Yeah,
Alfred, go ahead.
Look, it's something as I was analyzing partners, I thought about, and quite frankly, I did my homework, and the Rosie's Colonial Downs gaming product, there was a woman who's a gambler, and asked about Keno, is very different than the product that will be offered at one casino. Let's first start with, there will be casino table games, which don't exist, at Rosie's. The slot machine product is much more advanced in a class 3 gaming facility, and the amenities and setup at the one casino will also be vastly different. So, I believed and I got comfortable with that. It wasn't a conflict. And quite frankly, there was synergies that the customer, would be different. And by the way, when I talk to other, operators, when I talk to MGM, when I talk to Cordish, there are conflicts all over the place. The MGM people are and the Cordish people are going to want to pull people up in Maryland, and the radius is 2.5 hours, which you think that you're going to draw from. So you kind of had to, pick, what you thought was going to yield the best business proposition. And I opted that the historical horse racing product was very different, and our class 3 product at one casino would be better and draw a different crowd. And also the P2E operation for Colonial Downs or Rosie's will be keeping gaming revenue in the Richmond and the Virginia region, as opposed to competing, with Maryland. So that's how I got comfortable, and we're investing an enormous sum of money, and so, I had to get really comfortable, that this was the right thing to do.
Thank you, Alfred. And just speaking from a Richmond perspective, just knowing that there's a growth, that the Rosie's facilities are in growth mode, with the number of proposals on the table across the Commonwealth of Virginia, even as far north as Dumfries. And so just keeping that in mind.
Okay, Huey Walker, I am allowing you to unmute, please. Ask your question. You have to mute on your end.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm interested in the parking issues that's going on, that might be happening going down there. What'll be done about that?
Thank you.
Stefan, pass this one over to Stefan.
Sure. We've designed the development on that location with over 3,000 parking spaces. So we're very comfortable that we'll be able to park all of the families, guests who come there to play or to go to a show or to have dinner.
Thank you. And Maritza, also, it's come up a couple of times. Councilmember Trammell is on the call this evening. However, with these presentations this week, we are not directing any questions to council members. This is an opportunity for the representatives from last night, from the Cordish companies with their live casino and hotel project, to tonight with one casino resort project, and tomorrow night Bally's. And so we are not allowing. This isn't a forum for the council members. Strongly suggest that you email them your questions. I know that Ms. Trammell is very engaged in the community, and also each of them, or I shouldn't say each of them, but a number of them are having individual town halls and forums around the proposed casino projects. And so while we're appreciative of you wanting to hear from her, as I'm sure she is as well, we will not be directing any questions to council members. Thank you.
A question from the chat. Could you address traffic and how 95 South is already overloaded at the end of the day, and this will just make it worse?
Stefan, you take that one again?
Sure. One of the reasons we chose this location is mainly because of its proximity to 95. And we're 5 minutes from downtown Richmond. One of the things that you'll learn about gaming facilities and about entertainment facilities is they call it counter-cyclical, meaning that the traffics are different time periods than your typical rush hour traffic. So the traffics will be later in the day, therefore not conflicting with the rush hour traffic.
Thank you. Rosalind Gibson, I am going to unmute you. You need to unmute yourself and you can ask a question aloud. We'll give Rosalind a moment if she does not. Oh, there, I see your video. Now unmute your microphone.
All right, I'm sorry.
We hear you.
My question, should I close out my video?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, good evening and welcome, Urban One. I'm a Southside resident. I live in the 8th District. And my concern and my question is, I know you're going to develop your resort casino. And I know you have spoken and touched a little bit on this being a boost to the hotels that are already established in that corridor where you will be building your site. But I'm looking at MGM and the harbor. It's beautiful up there. And they also have a outlet mall, a lot of other attractions in that area. Right now, you would solely be the only entertainment in the 8th District. So do you foresee other developments and commercial development going on that would be comparable to the harbor, the MGM harbor location? I mean, I like all of that, but I just can't see you existing as the only entertainment venue in that area.
Thank you, Rosalind.
My question is about what is your vision of development and other developments outside of one?
I see Brent smiling, and that's a very good question.
One moment, Jasmine, could you please turn off your video? We can see you, and please turn it off. Go ahead, Alfred.
That's a very good question, and I think I may have, early on, as we're planning this, driven my partners a little crazy because I'd already actually started looking at land and looking to pursuing options and throwing out ideas of adjacent developments that could spring up around one casino. And I kind of had to slow my roll first. They said, well, look, why don't we focus on getting this proposal correct and then accepted, and then and then we can focus on what are the bolt-on and add-on opportunities, because they exist. I think this is going to be a catalyst to change that area. Somebody's got to be first, right? And then when you're first, then you can build, things that can feed off of it. And there is land available there, and I've posted several ideas about it. One of our partners is a big land controls a big a piece of land along that Commerce Road area. We've had conversations about it. I really do think that this is going to be a huge catalyst for a change in that area. Because the other thing is there's a lot of activity that comes from those distribution centers and the Port of Richmond, and we've been talking a lot about tourism, and bringing people there, but also now those people that are there for work, there's 3,500 people at Altria's factory. Now they're going to have a reason to stay around and be part of it, right? and that is something real that's going to happen for the 8th district when we build this facility there.
That's what economic development's really about. And I think the philosophy, and Alfred, really, you hit on it. What you try and do is you start with a certain economic model and engine, and that is what's been presented today. But the underlying philosophy is lift everyone around you. Lift the other businesses, bring in the case of this development, bring in the local restaurateurs. Don't overbuild a hotel. Build a hotel that will create such excess demand that all the rest of the hotel product in the area will increase. And then you're going to have the opportunity to really assess where can and should additional non-gaming, non-casino development take place. And, gee, I'll tell you, over the 20 years of doing this, the stories are great and they're numerous, and it happens. You need to start at a certain level and continue to reinvest in the community and continue to reinvest in that economic model, and it works.
Just pulling one question from the chat. What sports book will you be using, and will we be able to place bets on the Richmond Squirrels?
In terms of sportsbook, we have not picked a partner yet. What we normally do is go out with an RFP to all the large companies and just pick the proposal that fits best for our operation. But it will certainly have a sports book.
Okay.
I think the only prohibition in sports betting in Virginia is Virginia colleges and universities. That I understand.
That's right.
Yeah.
Julie, I am going to unmute you. You can unmute on your end and ask your question aloud.
I just have something to say. I've lived here in the South Side for like 45 years. And right there where it's gonna boot up in the neighborhood, I've lived there for like 20 years. And I don't see a problem with anybody having any problem with them being there, like the noise wise and stuff like that. And I just wanted to say that I think it would be a great opportunity for our 8th district to have some actual money to help with the area to get
Right.
things, moving and rolling, and to help, with the infrastructure and everything like that.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was it. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
On the infrastructure point, let me just see if he's here. Bob, are you in the meeting this evening? Bob Stidell is the city's Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for operations, and we know that with these proposed projects, there are lots of questions about infrastructure, traffic, any traffic improvement plans and the like. But I haven't said it during this meeting, but I've said it clearly on other meetings. The city of Richmond, we have no intention or expectation or desire, nor will we be offering any abatements, any incentives, any exemptions, any financing. There will be no public funding for this project or any infrastructure. Any and all infrastructure needs and improvements that will be needed for this project, the cost will have to be borne in the case of this proposed project by one, and the other projects by those proposers. And I just wanted to make sure that that's clearly stated for everyone to hear and understand. Bob, anything that you'd like to add as it relates to the interstate infrastructure, commerce, and Walmsley as it relates to people's concerns about traffic and any other infrastructure?
Thank you, Leonard. There are no new proposed changes at this time for this particular intersection or this particular area. There will be improvements to be able to provide access for commercial business to the Port of Richmond across I-95. But again, being an industrial area, the infrastructure has been quite robust, not only for what has been there and what was planned for in the future. So again, looking forward to seeing things like fixture counts and other information that once a potential vendor is selected, then we get down to a little bit more evaluation of what is in the exact area of the proposal.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
I'm taking a question in the chat. Do you have any ideas or programs in place to prevent drunk driving since the location is a little farther out?
Aaron?
Yep. So we train all of our employees on responsible serving of alcohol, both when they begin and annually. We refresh their training to make sure they're up and on any new initiatives. This includes training on how and when to properly ID a customer, when to recognize that someone has had too much, and training on how many drinks someone can be served at a time, among many other training material and serving protocols we cover. We also keep an eye out for anybody that's intoxicated, and we immediately, if we try to prevent them from going in their cars, and we alert the local law enforcement if they do.
Thank you. Guta Enterprises, I unmuted you. You can ask your question aloud.
Yeah. How you all doing? Really, could you hear me? Oh,
yes.
I really don't have a question. I was just saying that, I just wanted to state that this seemed like, a great entertainment hub, the best proposal, all in one. As I've seen, the others just proposing a casino, but you all are doing a lot more. And I would love the opportunity to work with you all,
Thank you. Let me see if there's other questions in the chat.
May I speak? I'm calling in on the telephone.
Yes, please ask your question.
Yes, my name is Sean Crippen. I'm out of the Blackwell area. I'm also a part of Virginia Community Voice and RVA Thrives. And what we've been asking for in our area, I guess that the hotels that will come, or also the ones that are there, typically they have suites, and when people have suites, sometimes they want to buy their own groceries to cook them. I was wondering, is there any way that you guys can entice them to build a grocery store in our neighborhood, because we live in a food desert?
Thank you.
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and I know that that's a need. Our company operates in urban centers all over the country. So Detroit, Washington, Baltimore, Houston, Dallas, and all of those, Atlanta, all those areas have neighborhoods that have food desert problems. And so I've experienced it. Many of them have been our clients. That's us being at the table, with the city and, again, the local officials trying to negotiate how we can be of assistance. We're not a food retailer or a grocer. Can we assist in some form or fashion? Can our revenues be a catalyst to subsidize something? But ultimately, the answer is yes to all those things. But ultimately, you would have to find an operator, a retailer, a location and a concept to actually set that business up. So it's not a unilateral effort that we can make happen, but we can absolutely be a catalyst, and a resource to help make that happen. But you definitely have to find a retail operator partner.
Maritza, I'd just like to pull one from the chat. The question is, will there be access to the site by bus or any other form of public transit? Would the developers be willing to pay for a bus route to and from the casino for attendees as well as workers?
Stefan?
Sure, another great question. Transportation to the site is real important to us as well, as with traffic, as with all the other subject matters that are being asked. The GRTV currently offers limited service along Commerce and actually has a stop at Commerce and Wainsley. We plan on working with the GRTC and pay for additional covered bus stops, not only at the development, but at the park itself, to allow people an opportunity to get to the facilities, whether they're a team member or a guest that wants to enjoy any of the amenities. That would be our plan at this point.
Thank you. While Maritza's pulling up someone else, another one in the chat. Will your organization be donating to politicians?
Look, we're in regulated businesses all over the place. Cable television, radio stations, a casino in Maryland. We have always followed any sort of laws, rules for the state, but we've also certainly been supportive of politicians. To be honest with you, largely because we need to side with those politicians that have the same interest in uplifting the community that Urban One represents, across a whole number of issues: voting rights, economic development, healthcare. So we've historically been active at the federal level, and at the local level. It's important who represents you, because those are the people that make things happen, for residents, and leadership in those roles is invaluable.
Thank you. Maritza?
KB, I unmuted you. You can ask your question aloud.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you so very much, Mr. Liggins and the executive team of P2E. Quick questions. With regards to your green space, it seems like your casino is on a huge amount of acreage. So can you paint the picture for me of what the rest of that acreage would be used for the general public? In the event that I'm not interested in casino or gambling at all, what else do I have to look forward to with the One Casino and Resort?
Stefan, you want to describe the elements of this green space and how much is devoted to it? We covered that in the earlier presentation, and there was a map, but Stefan will endeavor to verbally explain it.
It's a great story.
Yeah, so there's 50 acres of green space on this property, and just to the south of the site, I think it's Trent Road, there is a 20-acre parcel that we're going to fully develop into a public park, complete with dog parks and hiking trails and bike trails and nature trails and educational trails. We're also going to look for community feedback into other elements that we can put in there. There's beautiful natural wetlands and ponds in that area as well that can be enjoyed, and it's very scenery and tranquil. It's a beautiful location.
Thank you. Another question from the chat is really getting to the partnership between Urban One and P2E. And you answered the question about the experience building from the ground up. The follow-up question there was ultimately who is responsible for the project, who will profit, who will really own it?
The answer is we will, the owners. And when I say we, Urban One, I'm making a large personal investment. My mother and I actually own close to 50% of Urban One itself. It's a public company. And then the local investors, there's north of 50 of them, at this point. They're probably gonna, own, 10% of it, could go higher. Then you have the profit sharing plan, which is added on top of that. Those are going to be the common equity that will benefit from all of the equity upside that is typically associated with ownership. P2E's investment, as Brent said earlier, is a small preferred stock, investment that, basically gets a below market interest rate. They did it in order to help facilitate, quite frankly, the expansion of bringing in local, investors. It's less than 10% of the capital stack, but 100% of the equity ownership is going to, our company, its shareholders, and the 50 plus minority shareholders that we've gotten from the Richmond market.
Thank you. Maritza, before you go on to the next question, the next live question, just want a time check for everyone. The time is 7:48. There are still a lot of folks engaged in the conversation and dialogue, which we absolutely love and appreciate. We started at 6 o'clock with around 280 people online participating. We're at about 235 right now. To the extent that, again, that the one casino resort team have gas left in the tank, we will continue to field questions both live and via chat until no later than 8:30. But again, really appreciate everyone, your interest, wanting to hear and learn more about the project and ask your questions. So back to you, Maritza.
Thank you. If you are on the phone, you dialed in, you didn't go on an MS Teams app, but you're on your phone, I'm going to give you a chance to press *6 and ask a question aloud. We'll see how that works because you are not able to raise your hand. We have a lot of people who are on the phone. Okay. I am going to do that again in a couple of moments. So,
Hi there.
Oh, go
Thank
for
you
it.
for taking my call. I was just curious about I know you guys are working with MGM. I was just curious about the technology going into the facility. Has all that already been awarded? I know you guys said you had Timmons Group as an engineer, and I was just curious on who was handling the purchasing and determining what technology was going in the facility.
Talking about audio visual technology? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll take that. It's a little too early to have bid anything out yet, but the contractors will be doing that when the time's appropriate.
There's another question. Someone had problems getting into the chat earlier with the question, and so they texted it to me. And you all you've mentioned this in your presentation, but in the event that the person wasn't online at that point in time, could you explain in greater detail how much money you will be contributing to support city, neighborhoods, and community organizations above and beyond local tax payments?
We in our proposal, Karanja, you want to take it? There's several buckets, but I will take the first one. We have proposed already an extra 2% of revenues over and above what the state statutory requirement is to the city of Richmond. So we've increased that. I think it, based on the revenue range that we think that it would be the state rate would be about 7%. So we've thrown an extra 2% on top of that, which over the 10 years of the license would be an additional $60 million for the city to do what it wishes with. And then secondarily, Karanja can explain our $30 million of community benefit agreement commitments.
Yeah, I mean, again, just more of a brief before we took a year long, and we engaged with proven Richmond-based not-for-profits that have been doing this hard work in the community now, to the tune of $30 million over the 10-year period in the areas of education, workforce development, affordable housing, and then just community sponsorships in general, with entities that are supportive of Richmond's rich cultural heritage, their business community, museums. But what we really did is we just went out and spoke to local experts, figured out what was needed, and tried to apply our commitment to those very worthy causes. And that's an ongoing process. It's not over. We still have some funds that are earmarked in those different areas, and we'll be engaging the community in that regard.
Thank you. Brooke Betts, I am unmuting you. Ask your question aloud.
Great, thank you. Last night's presenter talked about positive spillover effects to nearby restaurants and venues. Obviously, this is a very different area, but I'm curious if the city has thought about, or if you guys have thought about, the connection with the film and movie industry. I know Richmond has a growing film and movie production industry, and have you considered your on-site audio production suite or any of those resources being of extra value to the Richmond community from a different kind of economic development. And while I've got the mic, related, have you thought about using your music, using that studio for Richmond schools to support the music and drama departments that really need a lot of help to further leverage or to really help their students learn in those areas?
Yeah, look, that's really a great question because the whole idea of bringing a sound stage and radio studios, was central to part of my vision. We're in the media business. Yeah, we own all these radio stations. We partnered with Summit Media, and they've got all these other radio stations in different genres, country, rock and roll, etc. And so as part of the centerpiece of One Casino, we're going to have radio broadcast studios and a command center that are actually going to control the entire audio visual experience inside the casino. And then secondarily, we're based in Silver Spring, Maryland. We operate cable networks, and successful cable networks. TV1 is the second most known brand, for African Americans across the country, next to BET, which is 30 years older than TV1 is. And we make a lot of content. Virginia is a state that has a burgeoning, growing film and TV community office, and there's not a sound stage in Richmond for when many of these productions come where they could shoot interior shots. So what I decided to do was make a commitment to move a significant amount of our annual programming budget down to Richmond to be made in the soundstage at One Casino. I started with a commitment of $50 million, $5 million a year. We will have to hire, people, down in Richmond in order to execute on those productions. So that creates additional jobs. It gives us the opportunity then to also integrate with schools, whether they be high schools, college programs, or even if you go, down as low as middle school. At a minimum, you can give people the experience of what it's like to create, a full-scale television production. We've already interacted with the Office of Film and Television. They're very excited about it. We have the ability to expand, upon that. And quite frankly, if you've been down to that area, the site that we're proposing, you can imagine in your head a casino, and you can imagine a production facility connected to it and a theater. It all kind of mixes in, with the current, industrial landscape down there. So I'm super excited about what that's going to mean to the area, what it's going to mean to the city, and the fact that the state already has an initiative means that I think that we could be a catalyst to grow those opportunities and actually bring more more business to the city and the state, in the entertainment industry.
Thank you. A question from the chat. Of all the proposers, I'm most worried about P2E's track record. Can you talk to us about why you closed the Diamond Jacks Casino in Louisiana? I'm just afraid of something like that happening in Richmond because you're not successful and we're left with a white elephant.
Okay, well, let's give some context to the Diamond Jacks in Louisiana. In 2015, we were approached by leadership in Louisiana. We had developed successfully a number of projects up to that point, including one in Lafayette, Louisiana, and leadership in 2015 in the state of Louisiana asked us to come in and help. So the question that they asked us was, will you please take over a soon-to-be bankrupt, for the third time, underperforming asset in Bossier City, Louisiana, and keep the 400 employees employed for as long as it takes us to get you moved to a different area so that you could do one of your P2E developments from the ground up. And we will work with you as leadership, and that process is ongoing. So we did. We inherited that property. It was basically given to us by the state of Louisiana with an agreement that we would keep the people employed, and we did so right until COVID. And then coming out of COVID, they said, listen, there's enough pressure on the industry. Let's all agree, just stay closed, which we have done, and continue to take care of the people that we need to take care of. So far from a story that is fully written, certainly it speaks to a couple of things about who we are as a company. We really think of being a part of this industry as a privilege and not a right, and showing the ability to be patient and to invest in that community and keep those employees employed. Unfortunately, COVID hit. Yes, we did close, but it was not closing of our own accord. It certainly was anything but of our making, and we were proud to be able to just keep the people with us for as long as we could, and look forward to brighter days when we can actually do a development in conjunction with the state of Louisiana.
Lakeisha, I am unmuting you. You can unmute and ask your question.
I appreciate you for this presentation this afternoon, as I am a 8th District resident, and I have had little to no education on this project or engagement. I have been living in the 8th District going on 8 years, and I'm just concerned of the infrastructure, and I heard that was addressed earlier. Also, as a mother, I wanted to know what kid-friendly ideas will be a part of this attraction. Also, I was hearing the gentleman way before me ask about a grocery store. We have 17 car lots along Richmond Highway and no grocery to have any access to. And if your proposal is accepted by the city, what would you do to engage our public officials of the 8th District, as we have seen little to no engagement as for town halls, advertisements, newsletters, or anything of that nature? Me and some other constituents were engaging with some people this weekend in some neighborhoods, and they have no idea of what is coming to, their neighborhood or close by them. So, do you have any reference to any of those things?
Thank you, Lakeisha.
I would say that we have started to engage with some of the Southside organizations that are also in our community benefits program commitments that we said earlier. We most certainly have engaged with the council leadership in the district. Ms. Trammell, we've walked her and others through all the pieces of our community benefits agreement. We have done mailers, that have hit the 8th District en masse. We are also just about to start to distribute handout trifold explanations of the project. We decided to go about our public community engagement a bit different than some of the other folks did. We decided we're going to work on that after we got on the other side of these presentations. But certainly there's more to come. I've done a teletown hall already that we targeted folks that were on the south side, and it was a telephone town hall, believe it or not. You didn't have to have an internet connection. We called you and invited you to come and participate, in which is a very large conference call. So I would say that there's been a significant level of engagement, and there's much more to come. There is going to be a lull here between the presentations that the city is doing. They're going to take time to deliberate, on what they found, and to give us more time to get even more active and face to face. One of the issues, that we have is COVID related, right? So are we going to be virtual like we are now? Even though I think the governor's allowed for more expanded groups, size groups to meet. Is that appropriate? Will seniors be wary about coming out no matter what the governor says is okay? So we got to kind of think through those kinds of things. I'm appreciative for the city to provide this opportunity, and I'm really excited that there's still almost 200 people on this call engaging, asking questions because they care about this this project and how it impacts their neighborhood and what it means to it. And so more to come, and that's what we've done thus far. And what's kid friendly? You missed that part. We are creating 55 acres of green space and a park, and there's absolutely a playground for kids that will be part of that. I can tell you, children inside casinos don't mix. Children can be in hotels, but no one under the age of 21 can enter a casino. I haven't seen outside of Las Vegas. I haven't seen many children in regional casinos. However, there are going to be amenities in our project, event space where you can have weddings and family reunions, etc. And obviously there are going to be shows there. So I expect that families will interact and participate inside the non-gaming related aspects of our casino.
Maritza, can we take a couple of questions back to the phone lines?
Yes. If you're on the phone, *6 to unmute, or maybe just unmuting your actual phone. Try both of those if you have trouble, and I'll just pause for a moment and see if anyone speaks. Okay, we'll get your ideas in mind and we will come back to you. I'm going to read a question from the chat. It's a couple of them combined. Basically, can you talk about the effect of gambling on students? There's the city, there's universities. Can you talk the effects of gambling? And then there's another question about how you help people with gambling addictions. So those are kind of related questions.
Yep, I'll take them. So look, in terms of problem gaming, we understand that it's real. We have experienced it firsthand during our decades of managing gaming establishments. It's a very small percentage of people who do have a problem, and we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we help that subset. We take a very proactive approach and are not reactive, and have a proven track record in going above and beyond any state level mandates. We require that each employee go through problem gaming and orientation, and we give them refresher training every year. And that training includes how to proactively identify individuals that may have a problem. We also have a voluntary self-exclusion program in all of our properties, both here in Virginia and around the country, even when the law does not require that. And then we're also members of the National Council on Problem Gaming, which is a national organization that provides essentially the best in industry training material and programs to all its members. And again, we must remember that all this is done because we take it very seriously. And then in terms of college kids gaming, we have experience in operating casinos in what one would consider college town. And yes, they'll come, they'll go to the entertainment, they'll enjoy the amenities, but to my knowledge, it's never been a problem in any of our other jurisdictions.
Thank you. Anyone on the phone want to ask a question? You can unmute by pressing *6 or just unmuting your phone itself. Try both things.
Yes. Alfred, Mr. Liggins, and P2E, what does it appear to be your 5-year vision? Should you be awarded to be the operator? Because it's obvious, Mr. Liggins, you come from the MGM School of Leadership, and you've already expressed the multiplier effect to businesses and such. What do you have in mind for the city of Richmond 5 years from now, should you become the operator?
5 years from now, I'd like to look back and, have, an army of people that, can recount, the promises and the vision that was set out, and, have them tell their stories about how, those visions came true, and the jobs that we promised were created, the wealth opportunities, the contracting opportunities that we promised were created, and that the area around, our location is dotted with other, businesses, whether, they're cowboy bar restaurants, whether retail comes, additionally to it. Hotels that have benefited, but you've seen a commercial and pedestrian activity that's thriving in that area, and many of the infrastructure or social ills that are going to be outlined to us that are occurring in the district are receiving significant revenue streams from this successful project. And that's just the 5-year report card, because I plan to be, around for a long time. We've owned our radio stations in Richmond since 1999. We don't intend on going anywhere. And, I won't even call this a double down on Richmond. This is 100 down on Richmond. So, I plan to have a 6-year report card, an 8-year report card, a 10-year and a 20-year report card. And I want to see growth and prosperity continue all the way up through my tenure as the CEO of this company, and an active member of the Richmond business and residential community.
Oh, a question from the chat. How can people invest? I talked about our 20-year history. So we started with a network of folks that we knew, already. And then that network grew from, people that were attached to the project, whether they were working for the P2E team or whether they were working for, lawyers or folks that, came off of it. Some folks we met along the way as I was telling the story at the General Assembly, and, we ran radio ads, and I've personally met, many of them. And I would tell you, we're not actively soliciting additional investors now, but it is happening. There are people that are coming to us through our network, and if they are folks that we believe are of like mind and additive to realizing this vision of a big tent and making this happen, we're engaging with them. We didn't start out with a goal of a set number of folks. It quickly got to 50, and it's actually grown over that. So we're not actively soliciting, but we're having conversations when we get approached. Okay. Are you back on, Maritza? Okay.
Yep, I am. I am going to take Laura. I am going to unmute you. Please ask your question aloud. Okay, I'm going to go to Romy Basari next. Go ahead, you can unmute your line, Romy.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm wondering, has Peninsula Principal been convicted or ever been charged of bribery with a public official?
Thank you. I guess that goes to one of the Peninsula folks.
Sure. And I'll take it to start. I don't know if Brent's on, but no, certainly not that no one's ever been convicted of bribery or anything of the like, at least that we're aware of.
Great. Thank you. will there be a community benefit agreement that guarantees Richmond residents jobs on the project? Leonard, do you want to talk about that, or Alfred? Maybe
Yeah,
both.
I mean,
I'll allow them to.
well, certainly we've in our RFP we have made hard commitments of job percentages, minority percentages. I am assuming that there will be a development agreement, should we be chosen, a development agreement with the city, and I would assume that the city officials will want that to be hardwired into their development agreement as well. So as part of our proposal, we have committed to that, and then there'll be a next step when if we're chosen, that we'll have to go hard in a development agreement with the city.
Alfred, that's a great segue for me to remind the citizens of a very important point. When the city issued the request for proposals, prior to that, we issued a survey asking Richmonders for their thoughts and feedback to help frame that request for proposal document. A lot of people asked or stated, you didn't ask me if I wanted a casino. In our mind, from the standpoint of the administration, our goal and objective is to make sure that with the opportunity we have to be home to a resort casino in the Commonwealth of Virginia, knowing that there will be a voter referendum, our goal and objective is to put forward the best project possible for Richmond voters during the referendum on November the 2nd. Every voting Richmonder to have the opportunity to vote yes or no on the absolute best project possible. And a part of that will be negotiated terms and conditions between the operator and the city of Richmond. Again, negotiating and moving forward with the absolute best interests of Richmonders in mind. And so it would be hard coded into a series of agreements with whichever operator. So thank you.
And I wanted to add to Leonard's comments that when people said you didn't ask us if we wanted a casino via surveys, the best way to ask a populace their opinion about something is through a vote at the ballot box, because with an online survey, it's accessible to anyone who has the link. So really, if you think about it, the voter referendum is the best way to ask people if they want something or not in their community.
And from a time check this evening, we're at 8:15, so we're gonna start rapid fire for the remaining 15 minutes. And thanks for hanging in there with us, the 189 people who are still plugged in.
Mar Duke, I unmuted you. You can ask your question aloud. Okay. I'm going to Hassan Ellison. Keep it short. I unmuted you. Go ahead. Okay. KB. Go ahead. Unmute. KB. Okay. I have someone who just signed in as guest. I have no idea. I unmuted you, guest.
Hello, thank you. I'm curious to know, for the benefits that are offered to the full-time employees, will you be including health insurance?
Yes, certainly health insurance will be offered. We haven't, we're not far enough along to have a comprehensive plan to present or anything like that yet, but in all of our markets, we offer some of the best in class benefits to all of our employees. And so yes, all full-time employees will be offered benefits.
And that's similar at Urban One too. We offer robust, comprehensive benefits plans, across all of the divisions.
The question from the chat is, besides radio and potentially a casino, does Urban One have any previous or ongoing business in the Richmond area? Any current partnerships with local businesses or organizations?
So our radio business is our primary business in Richmond. But when you're in the radio business, you somehow end up being in business with lots of other people because people come to you to actually help promote, their businesses, whether they're retail organizations, whether they're promoters, whether they're nonprofits, et cetera. We don't have any other businesses where we own, an equity interest in. That's, part of our ongoing slate of operations. So the one casino resort would be, our next line of business in Richmond, Virginia, should we be chosen to be the developer.
Another question from the chat states, entertainment companies struggled in 2020, according to Biz Journal. Urban One received a NASDAQ delisting warning in May. The revenue was down 22% from 2019 and was a loss overall and furloughed employees. Do you need this project for your company to reach profitability? And how can we be confident you will meet your commitments to the city of Richmond?
Yeah. So look, you got to be careful about what you read and how you read a financial statement. And so actually in 2020, I'm an awful year for everybody in the entire country, everybody in the world. Businesses got crushed. I saw, all of our clients, I don't want to say all of our clients, but many of our clients, most of our clients in the radio business shut, down because of COVID. Radio revenues went down 70%. We were no differently affected, and we went through layoffs and salary cuts. But our business is very diversified. And even though our radio business was under pressure, our television business exploded and was extraordinary because, people were at home and our audience watches TV. So ratings went through the roof. Our digital business exploded. Radio bottomed out, started to come back. So long story short, even through all that pain, we actually ended up making more money as a company in 2020 than we did in 2019. And we lowered our leverage, paid down debt, and refinanced our entire capital stack, our entire debt structure at much more favorable rates. So the company, we did that in January. So the company actually had a better year in 20 than 19. We fared way better than most of our other media brethren, and we're in very solid on very solid financial footing. No issues with meeting our obligations, no issues with writing the investment check for this investment. And I would also like to say I've been running this company. It's 40 years old. I joined in 1985. I've been the CEO since 1997. We have never, defaulted on an obligation to any lender. We have never not closed on any acquisition or investment property that we've committed to. I'm super proud of that track record. And as many of you might know, Kathy Hughes is our founder, and she's my mother. And, if I had done any of those things, I probably wouldn't still be running this company. She would be taking me out by now, if you know my mother. So, if you read a financial statement and it says we have losses, that's because we have tax losses. And we have tax losses because we have what you call depreciation and amortization that we get to add back from all the assets we bought over the years. So that's the reason you got to be careful. We actually made $140 million last year.
Thank you. Laura, I am going to unmute you. You can ask your question aloud.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that it seems like that this team, you've really done your homework in getting to know our city and being a part of the city. I've lived here for 20 years. You may have noticed that Richmond is a unique city in that it's family oriented and outdoor, environmentally centered, and it's a small business city. And I appreciate that you all have looked into the flavor of Richmond while you've been designing your plan for the casino. The park and the green space, are great could be good for families, and inviting small businesses onto the premises.
We have 7 minutes left, and can you?
Yeah, I want to say, I'm wondering just quickly, you mentioned that there are wetlands on your 50-acre property. Can you pledge to protect the wetlands and work with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation?
Absolutely. The plan is to preserve those wetlands, and that's why they're an intricate part of the park and the project itself. We believe it's a valuable asset in helping with the city's master plan and keeping open green space for the public.
Stefan, will you answer whether or not the project will be designed and constructed to any level of LEED standards?
Sure. Actually, our architectural team has LEED certified designers on it, and we will be LEED designed and certified.
Thank you.
KB, I'm going to unmute you, see if you can ask your question quickly, if you're still there. Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. So quickly, my question is this. I've known Radio 1 in this area to feed the hungry, toy drive, like every cause that there is, education, summer camps, and all of those things. So what more, and you've been here for 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, under your Radio 1 brand. So what more does the One Casino and Resort plan to do for the community along its philanthropic efforts that has nothing to do with the city government or nothing to do with casino and operations?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I actually have Community Clovia on this call in case we got asked, what kinds of stuff that we've done over the years in Richmond. But that's not really your question, because what we've done, and we're involved in everything that there is, and it's led by the local team in Clovia. But the answer to your question is that our business in Richmond is anywhere between a $7 and $10 million revenue business on over the period of time that we've been here, and it's profitable. It's not insanely profitable, but it's profitable. What we're talking about with One Casino and Resort, and these numbers are public. You're talking about a business that's going to do over $300 million of revenue, and the enormity of those resources that this project will generate will give us incredible latitude in our philanthropic efforts, what we can contribute to. And, we can go from contributing, Clovia told me she raised $100,000 for St. Jude's last week. You can go from raising $100,000 to contributing millions of dollars like we're talking about in our community benefits program. You can have a conversation, with the community about if they have a stormwater drainage issue, because the business is just so big and the resources associated with it allow you to be that much more impactful and proactive. It's kind of like Bill Gates' new career, the founder of Microsoft, is the Gates Foundation, because his wealth was so enormous. Now he has the ability to affect things like hunger and vaccines and education, and you can just move, to be a force, a driving force in a community. And we want to do that for the South Side and be part of that 8th District renaissance and move upward. And that's what this project will allow us to do. But the best thing that you said is, that's our DNA. That we do those things already. We do them on a Richmond level. We do them at a corporate level. This is going to give us the resources and the ability to do it at an entirely different level.
Alfred, that point, I'm sorry, Maritza, I'm sorry. That's a perfect segue into one of the other questions asked in the text about the earmarking of money from the revenue generated from the project. And I'll take that question on. all of the tax revenue that's associated with the project, whether it be the statutory gaming tax that will be required to be paid as a percentage on a waterfall basis from the gross gaming receipts, or the property taxes from the project, or any other taxes from the project, or anything that we negotiate above and beyond what's required by statute. All of those funds go to the city, and it's city council who appropriates the use of those funds, which is one of the reasons why we have asked citizens to participate in our online community engagement, to provide us feedback and ideas and suggestions on how they'd like to propose new revenue be used in the city, throughout the city, in the 8th district, any district, as a result of a project of this nature. And so the difference between what Alfred was mentioning in terms of some of the other community-based programs, those would be things outside of revenue that's flowing directly to the city.
One final question one is related to that someone has asked a couple of times. Is it true that value increases in the area of a casino? And if so, what will be done to help those that have been in the 8th district for years if they cannot afford increased taxes? I would assume property taxes.
Stefan, you take the property value.
Yeah, as it relates to property values, we believe that there's going to be more people that work in that area, therefore they're going to want to live in that area. I can't speak for the property taxes. I think that's more of a city question, but I think as we look at the revenue that we're going to be bringing to the city of Richmond, I would think that it may have a benefit, and not putting the city in a position where they're forced to raise property taxes for incremental revenues. But that's not an answer I have at this time.
Yeah, I'm not the tax assessor. I can't answer as far as whether or not the project will, or any project in the city will result in increase or lower taxes. But we are at the 8:30 time on the clock. There are still 182 people engaged in this. Thank you so very much, Richmond, for staying engaged in this conversation and dialogue. We have a tremendous opportunity in the city to identify the operator and the site for, under the current legislation, what will be the last available casino gaming license in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so it presents a tremendous financial opportunity, but also we recognize that it's a tremendous responsibility as well, as we want to make sure that we're consistently, again, addressing the concerns of Richmonders of all shapes and sizes in terms of the concerns, particularly with a project of this nature. It does present a significant revenue opportunity, as we've shared. Our consultants' analysis points to $30+ million a year of new revenue for the city, and we don't pursue projects just for the sake of pursuing them. We pursue them so that we can effectively address our priorities as a city. Priorities such as more funding for RPS, affordable housing, equitable economic growth, great jobs in the city, a number of things that ultimately lead to a totally vibrant community. Alfred, we are so thankful to you and the One Casino Resort team for being so generous with your time this evening to present to the citizens of the city of Richmond, to answer their questions head on. Thank you for all of the info, and also thank you for responding to the city's request for proposals and qualifications. Marisa, as always, appreciate you. Great job. And so again, everyone, this session has been recorded. It will be available and posted on the city's economic development website. We have a page totally dedicated to the resort casino process. Also, we continue to encourage you to leave and post your comments and feedback online using the Convey.io tool. A lot of what was shared and you see lots of dots where people have been providing their feedback. Also, there's a video for each of the remaining 3 projects to help give you some more understanding and insight. In addition to that, you can find the study that was done by the Convergent Strategy Group. You can see a full copy of the RFQ-RFP document that we issued. also our community engagement timeline. Again, so very thankful for everyone. And we will be doing this again tomorrow evening with Bally's. Again, representatives from Bally's will be online tomorrow. We encourage you to come out, listen to their presentation, ask them the hard questions as well. So again, on behalf of my colleagues in the city of Richmond, thank you again and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.